Hello there guys, Daniel Childs back here again. Hope you're doing really well on this Thursday. It's going to be a Pochettino heavy episode today of news because obviously Chelsea on the brink, on the cusp of qualifying for European football of some kind next season. If they get a point on Sunday, it will be the Europa League, at least until we know the result of the FA Cup final between Man City and Man United, or the Conference League. But, Chelsea very close to achieving what kind of was the minimum objective of this season. But still, we don't know the future of Mauricio Pochettino. So we do have a report from Jacob Steinberg of The Guardian about kind of the Chelsea hierarchy, the feeling internally around Pochettino before his future is decided next week after the Bournemouth game. And then we'll have a look at some of the numbers around one and only Cole Palmer, how impressive he's been obviously this season. If you are new around here, please hit that like button. Please share the content around. Also, this is kind of the last chance for you to get in the giveaway for tomorrow that I'm going to be announcing the two winners for the Alloy Collectors. Very kindly sent me these. So there's a chance to win one of these in the locker that you can customize. I've already said this. I've got silver on the back, or there's a DIY one as well where you make up the shirt. But I think both of them, lovely collectibles to have. And as I say, you can customize it with your favorite player as well. So get involved in the comments. Give me your favorite Thiago Silva Chelsea moment. I know many of you have already got involved in the giveaway, but just one more chance for anyone who hasn't already and they want to win one of those. But if you don't, and you just want to get one of the metal shirts right now because you can't wait, use my discount code SonOfChelsea at checkout at Alloy Collectors to get yourself 15% off. It's a really lovely collectible, and they will have more Chelsea stuff coming over the summer and into next season. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that on the show and hopefully doing some more giveaways. But Pochettino, we'll get to what Pochettino, CM Poch as I'm calling him, what he said post-game. But let's look at Jacob Steinberg's piece for The Guardian. He reports that Pochettino has key Chelsea backing before the review to decide his future. He reports that prominent figures in the Chelsea hierarchy believe the wisest move would be to keep Pochettino, who joined on a 2-year deal with the club option of a 3rd year. It remains to be seen whether the controlling co-owners Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital will stick with the Argentinian, but there is a growing feeling he will stay. There are indications that some board members are undecided on Pochettino, although any move to make a change would need to be a unanimous decision. Boehly and Clearlake, the private equity company managed by Benedict Barley and Jose E. Feliciano, would have to sign off on Pochettino's exit. Sources believe the club were leaning towards sacking the 52-year-old a few weeks ago, only for positive results to alter the picture. And I think those positive results, it's not just about the last couple of weeks, which of course I think for a lot of us have changed the mood because Chelsea are winning games consistently, so obviously that's going to change the mood. But as people have pointed out, and as these stats have become a lot more prominent as Chelsea's form has gotten better in recent weeks, comparing and contrasting the first half of the season with the second half of the Premier League season, and the Premier League released this graphic today. So the first 19 matches of the season, Chelsea were in 10th after playing 19, goal difference of 25 points. You match that with the last 18 matches of this season with 1 to go, with 35 points, 11 goal difference, and up there with Liverpool, only 2 points behind them in the last 18 matches, and of course better than Aston Villa. So those numbers justify an improvement. Todd Boehly was speaking about that specific number since Boxing Day, basically, in a recent interview he did. And I think there's a variety of factors why you keep Pochettino. I think firstly, just the reality that he is very likely going to hit what was kind of the requirement of this season, a return into European football. I don't think any of us in August, if you said 6th place, would have said that's a disgrace, that's an abomination, that's a major failure. I think all of us would have gone, fair enough. Like, sure, it isn't the Champions League. We would like to be back in the Champions League. But given where we were last season, the turnover of players, how young this squad is, and you've got a new coach coming in, and the turbulence we've seen around the club, that is a step in the right direction. For him to get that, that's point 1 in his favour. That's a major point in his favour. Point two is the players clearly like him. They clearly want to work for Mauricio Pochettino. Cole Palmer said the same in a quote last night. He said, the players very much want to fight. They care about the manager and they love the manager and credit to him. He said that in a quote after the game last night. And we've heard this consistently. And it's not just nice quotes to the media. It's the evidence in front of our eyes. It would have been very easy for those players post-Arsenal. I think post-Arsenal was always going to be a very defining moment for Pochettino because it was the lowest point of this season, even though you could argue earlier in the season we were technically in kind of worse form, but still that was such a damaging couple of days, and especially for the morale around the club if you add in the FA Cup semi-final defeat too. The fact that those players didn't down tools, the fact that those players didn't lose faith and trust in him as a coach, I think says a lot. And I think the reason Pochettino has probably gained that trust is because very rarely has he thrown his players under the bus in, say, press conferences. And we move on to sort of the press conference side, but I think that's another point in his favour, that the squad that the sporting directors and the owners are very proud of building clearly like the coach right there. And I think lastly, the alternatives just aren't that amazing. I think it says a lot that Tuchel may even stay at Bayern Munich now. We've seen the same happen with Xavi at Barcelona. Roberto De Zerbi, I think, has gone massively down in estimation of a lot of people's minds this year for his performance at Brighton. A number of names are out there and very few stand out as this is the guy we absolutely need to get. If Pochettino had finished mid-table with no European football, with no positivity around the club whatsoever, it's a very different story, but we're not in that reality right now. And you've got to give Pochettino credit. And I think Pochettino, in his quotes, in his demeanour in recent weeks, maybe feels a sense of vindication because as injured players have returned, the level of the team has increased and he can turn around to that board and go, I haven't had a full deck to play with. You invested in this squad, but a lot of this squad has been unfit. Look at what I've achieved with the struggles I have this season. This squad being a year older next year, hopefully with key players like Christopher Nkunku returning and being fit for a larger period of the season. And you can add a number of names to that list, and we hope they will be fitter next year because that's key. But all of those things combined, where you're going to end in the table, achieving that objective, the players, the mood, being supportive of Pochettino, and what could come next year, I think those three things for me justify keeping Pochettino. It's not a Ten Hag situation where they've probably failed on their objectives in the season. There's no kind of coherent style of play whatsoever forming. It doesn't feel like the players are really working for Ten Hag, and there doesn't seem to be a great relationship. He's fallen out with several players this year, and in terms of the future, it's very unclear. It's very sort of uncertain. It feels chaotic at Man United. I think that's a clear a parallel between both clubs, right? And for all we can criticise Chelsea, as I have, as many of us have, right, it's clearly a better environment with Pochettino. So I'm going to keep him, and I think the club should. I think it's a very easy decision, and it should be very quick, and we can move on into the summer. But Pochettino, CM Poch, going out there and dropping a few pipe bombs. So last night he was asked, whether this team now playing well, winning 4 in a row, nearly at Europe, is it his team? And this is what he had to say.
Do you see a team and think that's my team? That's a Pochettino?
No, that is not my team. That is Chelsea team. No, not my team. What means that? My team.
Your style, the way you want to play, your philosophy, are they doing
I don't know. After 15 years working in Espanyol, Southampton, Tottenham, Paris Saint-Germain, and now Chelsea, I think you know my style, no? In the way that we want to play. In possession, when we lose the ball, I think we have the trajectory in football, that, no?
Yeah, but do you see that in this team now?
You see? Or not? For me, it is not important what I'm going to say. If you are going to twist the things or like this. Look, if you are happy, if the people is happy in the way that we are playing with the profile of the player, with the squad that we have, we need to adapt.
It's whether he misconstrues the question or not. I do think it is a little bit of just Pochettino maybe going back at his critics and maybe feeling a sense that I am being justified in all of those things I said earlier in the year about it taking time to get to this phase of knowing the struggles I faced as a head coach, and this doesn't happen overnight because he's experienced similar earlier in his career. And of course, the scrutiny on that role is so intense that he has had to come through so much of it. Maybe he feels a lot more confident in his own abilities. Maybe he feels a lot more vindicated, and he's kind of now throwing it back in the face of his critics, which I think is a nice thing to see. And it does feel like he's growing more confident in that chair. And there is a little bit of Jose or kind of even Tuchel at time in I know that may seem like a wild comparison because of how much people love those personalities, but it's just Pochettino has certainly changed his tone, I think, for the better in press conferences. And sure, some of that has absolutely coincided, and it's very easy when things are going well to be like that. We've seen that with Ange Postecoglou, how easy it was for him to be very charismatic and matey in press conferences when things were going well. The moment things turn bad, you see how quickly that spirals. That's always the case in football. But in terms of, I think, him maybe understanding the club, the expectations of fans a little bit better, and also fighting back a bit for his own reputation, I think it's been really good to see. And I just hope for his sake, this isn't just him throwing all of that out there because it's nearly the end for him at Chelsea. I like to think he's throwing it out there and he's going to gain more authority heading into next season and whatever changes need to be made. Because I just think a general ethos I think needs to be had around Chelsea this summer is one of just calm and stability. Don't go wild in the transfer market signing players we don't really need to sign. Don't go wild selling players that are key to the first team squad and kind of giving up on projects that you kind of invested in for the long term. And I think that also is the case, of course, with the head coach and giving him more time to develop what could be a much better looking season next year. We don't know how much better, but we hope a lot better more consistently. Just to wrap up here, so Cole Palmer, the numbers around Cole Palmer have been ridiculous this year. And of course, another goal for him last night. And people have been pointing out a comparison with a certain Eden Hazard. And, it's not about calling him the next Eden Hazard, better than this player, better than that player. I think all of these numbers just historically, and especially in recent Chelsea attacking history, shows you how much of an upgrade Cole has been. Because the idea a year ago, I could sit here and throw any of the attacking players. I know we had him on loan, but Joao Felix, Kai Havertz, any of those players, I could throw them up and compare them to Eden Hazard or Costa in terms of like numbers for a season. I mean, you just be laughed out the room. Like, there's just absolutely no comparison. But the fact that Cole Palmer has not only bettered Diego's goal tally in a single Premier League season, because he only ever hit 20 in a Premier League season, but now Eden Hazard. I mean, Eden Hazard's 18-19 season, his final season at Chelsea, 37 games, 16 goals, 15 assists. Cole Palmer, 32 games, 22 goals, 10 assists. And of course, we know that Eden was a special player and he did it for a long period of time. Cole Palmer is going to have to do it for a long period of time. But for a debut season, him stepping out of his comfort zone, him not playing in a great Chelsea team. I mean, the team that Eden Hazard arrived in was significantly better than the team Cole Palmer has arrived in. I think that's what makes this season so impressive for Palmer, and the way he's had to take on so much responsibility. And he seems so cool. He seems so collected. He seems to just take it in his stride. I think there are ways for him to go in his game still. And I hope that is the case, because we have got a special talent. And I give credit to the ownership. I give credit to Joe Shields for making this signing. 42 million is a steal. It's one of the best pieces of business it looks like Chelsea have done in some time. So I'm going to give them credit. I'll criticise them when I feel it's worthy, and I'll give them credit when I think it's worthy too. And obviously, Cole Palmer hasn't just been the best signing of this season. He has been the best signing we've seen, an attacking signing at Chelsea, for several years. I mean, you have to go back some way. I know people talk about N'Golo Kante. That was a midfielder. I mean, the last time we had someone have this quick an impact on our attack from the transfer market was, I think, Diego Costa. I mean, I might be blanking on someone, but significant impact and improvement and influence, obviously, Cole Palmer. So that is it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Get involved in that giveaway. Favorite Thiago Silva moment in the comments below. I will announce the winner tomorrow as we start to look ahead to the final game of this Premier League season at Stamford Bridge against Bournemouth. All the best.